Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this update for ASU members about a proposal from the Fair Work Commission to make some changes to our award that I want members to know about, and we're going to need to be ready to respond to. My name's Angus. I'm the Secretary of the Australian Services Union here in New South Wales and the ACT. Thank you everyone for coming along today to this one of the two special member briefings that we're holding today. We're doing this as a webinar, so it can also be recorded and shared with other members who cannot attend today, because we want to make sure everyone gets the update and information that they need. How we're going to run today's webinar is I'm going to basically run through an update for all of you as to where the ASU campaign is up to on improving our award, and then I'll talk to you about what the Fair Work Commission has said about that and its own idea, and the timeframes moving forward. And then I'll be able to obviously take questions. If you want to put them in the Q&A function, please do put them there, because I'll then get to some of those questions and I'll talk about next steps. We'll then be also sending copies of this webinar and the survey we're launching today and other materials to members as well over the weekend or Monday. And there'll be many more communications and updates with members over the coming weeks about the Fair Work Commission's proposal for our award and what we need to do to make sure that we're always striving and campaigning for our conditions to be going forwards, not backwards. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and pay respects to elders past and present. I'm Angus, as I said. I'm here on Gadigal land in Redfern, at the ASU head office in Sydney, and I will be talking to you today about some important developments in relation to the SCHADS Award. The SCHADS Award being the award that provides the minimum wages and conditions for our members in the community and disability sector. And the Fair Work Commission itself has put forward an idea of how it would like to change the award classification system. And so this meeting is about updating you on what Fair Work has said, what their proposal is, then how we're going to get member feedback and views on that, because I'm pretty sure when I go through it with you, you're going to have lots of views on it, and also the actions that we need to take in community, with our sector, with government, to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward in the proposals moving forward in the next steps. So I'm going to share my screen, and because I've got a nice little presentation for everyone. I know people also, hold on a second, there we go. Now, hopefully that has worked for you all. So let's kick off. So last year, the ASU launched nationally the Skilled, Respected, Equal campaign. And that actually came following a very comprehensive consultation process in 2023 with members across the country about what do you want the priorities of your union to be in the next 5 years? What are the key issues that we need to be campaigning and addressing? And the big one that came out by far was fixing the classification system in our award. So people's skills, responsibilities, the complexity of your work, your experience, your qualifications are better recognised, better valued, and better paid. And so therefore we launched the Skilled, Respected, Equal campaign. But before I go in to that campaign and what's been happening since then, I do want to just talk a bit about history, because it's really important that we remember that back in 2012, so nearly 13 years ago, your union won a historic Fair Work case called the Equal Pay case. Now, that was about saying that the work of our industry had been historically undervalued. It was undervalued because the vast majority of workers in our sector are women, and the work had been considered, women's work, and therefore undervalued as such. And in that case, the Fair Work Commission agreed, yes, our work had been undervalued. Yes, it was because of gender. And then in terms of, well, what do we do about that? What's the remedy? How do we fix that? They agreed with the ASU that the rates of pay should be aligned to what the equivalent public sector jobs were at the time. So there was a big exercise of mapping out, well, how much does a youth worker get paid in the community sector versus in the government sector? How much does a disability worker get paid in the community sector versus in the government sector? And that then was expressed in what's called an equal remuneration order. And that was an instrument that sits on top of the award. Sometimes it's called the ERO, sometimes it's called equal pay rates, but that is essentially pay increases that were mandated on our award between 23 to 45% across the levels to basically bring our pay in line with relevant and similar public sector jobs as they were in 2012. We know a lot's changed since 2012, but that's that big decision there. And that was a huge victory of our union, and those increases then phased in between 2012 and 2020. And you'll see later on why it's so important that we remember this particular great case and outcome in our current situation today. So we won the equal pay case in 2012. That provided huge increases between 2012 to 2020. But that didn't actually fix the classification descriptors itself. What that provided was higher pay rates, which is fantastic. But what we know is that the classification descriptors in the SCHADS award are very lengthy. They don't properly recognise the contribution our members make. They don't refer to contemporary practice. They don't refer to lived experience. They barely even refer to qualifications. And they need to be updated. And if they're not updated, we will keep seeing members underclassified. Sometimes deliberately underclassified, sometimes accidentally underclassified, because it's actually hard to tell where jobs should be classified. And that also affects funding as well, right? Because funding bodies fund to the award in most cases. So that's where the union campaign to fix the award came from. Skilled, respected, equal. And this was about changing the award to update it so that the classification descriptors properly reflected your skills, your qualifications, your experience, and the complexity of the work that you do. Now, when we launched that case, we started it by focusing on the NDIS, and we wanted to fix the wage theft that's happening there. And the reason why is because one of the big problems in the NDIS is we estimate about 15% of workers are incorrectly paid on the wrong award. So if you're going to update and improve an award, the first step is making sure we all agree and know who's on that award. So the opening part of our case was actually to say very clearly, this is the award for disability workers, and therefore they can't be put on some other thing. They can't be ripped off $10 an hour. We need to agree who's on the award first and then lift to build the award. And that's how our case was then structured. But something that's important to know is that while we were talking to members about how to improve our award and while we were preparing our application in the Fair Work Commission, the Commission itself had been spending 2 years in a real deep dive into aged care. And they were reviewing the Aged Care Award. And as a part of that, they developed an entirely new system for aged care workers. And along with that came significant pay rises for aged care workers. Now, you probably would have heard about this. It's been on the news, it's been something that unions have celebrated, and certainly we at the ASU celebrate and congratulate our sisters and brothers in aged care who have won and campaigned for a really important pay rise for them. And that was a great decision and a really great campaign. But it's important for us to just note that the Commission had spent a couple of years in this deep dive into aged care. And then at the same time, when they got out of that review, they were given the power by the federal government to review any award that they thought where there was an issue of gender undervaluation. And so they initiated their own review of SCHADS. But then we come along saying, well, hold on a minute. The ASU members have a plan to review SCHADS too, actually. Thank you, Fair Work Commission. And so what they did is they said, well, look, we're not going to have two separate reviews. We're not going to have an ASU review over here and our own Fair Work Commission review over here. So the Fair Work Commission said, we're going to combine it all into one process. And that's what they did, and they have the right to do that. They can set their own timetables and the way cases are run at the Fair Work Commission. So they merged our case to fix wage theft in the NDIS and for a bigger review of SCHADS, and they said they're going to review it first and then they're going to get on to our reviews. And they had hearings in last December about this first element, which was, well, who is on the award? Let's clarify. Are all disability support workers on the SCHADS award? The ASU said yes, but they went through a process of hearings and witnesses talking about that. So we had that hearing in December. We were talking about who's on the award and who isn't. And then we were expecting that this year we would then move on to the broader process of updating our award. But then something happened. In April, the Fair Work Commission released a provisional decision. Now, that means it's not final. That means it is basically an idea that they have, that they wanted to share with everyone. And they said, look, we've been thinking about this. We do agree with you, ASU, that the work of SCHADS workers has been undervalued and the classification system is a mess. We agree with that. It needs to be updated. But we also think that actually disability work is quite similar to aged care. Remember, they've just spent 2 years just thinking about aged care. So they're very much on top of aged care. And they said, we think disability is quite similar to aged care. So they said, why don't we just adopt and give you a similar system to this new aged care award that we have developed? Because we've spent 2 years developing that and thinking about that. And isn't your work kind of similar to aged care? And wouldn't that work well for you? Won't we save you all so much time by giving you this this new SCHADS award that would look a bit like the aged care system? And they actually put out a proposal to say, well, we should just move to this a 9-level system that's based on aged care. And they say that, well, because those aged care rates went up so much and we dealt with undervaluation of work in aged care, then once we've done that in your award, we won't need to keep having that separate equal pay thing hanging on top of the award. And they said they put that out in April and said, what do you think about that? This is our idea. There are big problems with their idea though. Firstly, and probably the most important one, is that not all the rates of pay are the same. So yes, the rates of pay at the beginning, at the entry point, are the same and at the top at the end, but not in the middle. So obviously that's a problem and we have to make sure that the pay rates are protected and not going backwards. The second thing is that the aged care classification structure is purely just based on qualifications. Now, qualifications are important. We do want them to be recognised, and we know many members' qualifications aren't valued and recognised, but it's not the only thing that should be recognised. So that's another concern we had about their idea, because we know in our sector, lived experience is important. Industry experience is important. The complexity of the communities and clients you're working with is important, and that makes a difference as well. So when they put out this draft decision, this idea, hey guys, what do you think about this? Here are some of the steps that we took, because that was actually in the middle of the federal election. So there was no government technically in place. People were all deciding who the government would be. We did secure support in the election from the Labor Party that they would work with the ASU to protect our pay rates and to develop, I guess, a better or different proposal. And that's really important. Because we wanted to actually make sure that we get this right, and we wanted the time to do that. So the Albanese government were then obviously elected, we all know about that, and they reaffirmed that commitment to us. And the Fair Work Commission did have some preliminary consultations in June on this idea of theirs. So we went along to those consultations and we were supported by the federal government and by so many employers as well. And everyone said basically, look, with all due respect, Fair Work Commission, we'd like some time to work together to come back with a better alternative. That our sector's quite different, that we think that we need to come up with something more nuanced to our needs. And the Commonwealth Government have actually agreed to support and resource that. We could have a whole consultative process of co-designing something, working with union members, good employers, and importantly, funding bodies, because that is so important in our sector to get them in the room and in the conversation, and let us come back with something at the end of the year that is more adapted to our sector. So we had those consultations just last month. But then there's been a development on last Friday. The Fair Work Commission then said what it wanted to do moving forward. So unfortunately, the Fair Work Commission rejected this idea of more time to come up with an alternative and co-design a better proposal. They've said, no, we actually just want feedback on our idea first. We think our idea, which is based on our great aged care decision, is really important. And we want that to be the focus of everyone first. And they've held over our case to improve the award in recognition of the complexity of your work until next year. So it's not dead, it's not over. They've just said, no, our idea first. We want you to tell us what you like or don't like, or what you would want to change or fix with our idea. And then once we've considered that, then we will think about, the ASU's application about a more general uplift and review of people's work since 2012. So what does this mean for our campaign? Well, I would say it's a sideways step, not a backwards one, and it actually means we now have a two-stage process over a longer period of time, which is not what we wanted, but that is the situation the Fair Work Commission has now given us. So we now need to focus over the next 2 months on pointing out all of those issues with that particular proposal from them around having a similar structure to aged care. And the number one priority will be protecting the pay rates and preserving the pay rates and building on our current pay rates, not adjusting to some differences with the aged care rates. And that's really important. The other priority will also be consulting members and speaking to all of you and getting all of your feedback and ideas as to how we shape that feedback. We also will need to start to take action to make sure that it is known to funding bodies, to governments, to employers, and to community that this is actually very, very important for our sector. It's very important to ASU members, and we will expect nothing less than our conditions moving forwards, not backwards, our equal pay being protected, and our work being valued. So let me talk about those next steps. Oh, sorry, before I do that, let me actually go through in detail with you the Fair Work proposal for a new award for SCHADS. Now, this is Fair Work's proposal. It's not the ASU's, it's theirs. I want to be very clear there. This is their idea. And this is what they've said. No, everyone must just tell us what they think of our idea. You cannot come up with some alternative right now. You need to focus on our idea. So this is their idea. Their idea has a 9-level structure, so one extra level that we currently have. And this is in summary what the 9 levels are called. So they have a level 1, which is for introductory admin work only, so only admin and only introductory admin. Then level 2 is what they call introductory community services work. And then this is where you see the qualifications thing. Then they have level 3 is what they call qualified community services work. And that means you have to have a certificate 3. And then level 4 is a senior community services worker, which their thing is linked to having a certificate 4. And then you have a specialist employee, which is someone with a diploma, see the qualifications thing. And then a professional employee, which I really don't like that language, is someone with a degree. And it goes up from there, then 7, 8, and 9 are various levels of managers. So and let's do a bit of a deep dive, because they have given more detail than that, to be fair to the Fair Work Commission. So this is, for example, what they say as their idea for level 1. So they say level 1 would be an introductory administrative clerical employee whose primary role is to provide basic admin support and does no direct care support work at all. Level 2 is what they call this introductory employee, which for them is someone with no experience and no qualification. So completely new in the industry, no qualification, no experience. Then they have level 3, and this would really be the entry point, I believe, for most people. This is what they would call the qualified community services worker. Again, that's their language. That's not what I like, but anyway. And this is basically someone with a certificate 3. Or equivalent they've put in there, which is interesting, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Then level 4 is this senior community services worker, which is someone who has a certificate 4 or equivalent. Then we go up to level 5, which is what they call a specialist employee or a supervisor. So this is the first level of a team leader. So team leaders would now be at this new level 5. And this is someone who provides community services work but has also obtained a diploma or equivalent. And then level 6 is what they call professional, which is essentially someone that has a degree for their job. And this is the only place they've actually put pay points. You might have noticed, where are the pay points? They've not put pay points in the Aged Care Award. So they've put them here, though, for us at this professional rate, but not at other levels. So that's obviously something that we're going to have to raise with them, because I know that our members say that pay points are important, that you do actually learn and develop new skills over time in this type of work, and that should be recognised through pay points. Then you have level 7, which is basically a manager type position. And then you have 8 and 9, which are then for more senior managers or executive managers. So that is their proposal. So what are the next steps in all of that? So today we are launching a member-only survey to collect all of your feedback on what I just shared with you. And just so you know, in the survey has copies of all of those different award descriptors, because you might be thinking, I only just saw that, I need to see it again, I want to think about it. So the survey will go through all of that and capture your feedback. Because as the Commissioner said, we have until the beginning of September, essentially a month, to provide all of that feedback. And our obligation is to make sure that you as members are a part of driving that feedback. We also need to make sure that our employers, our peaks, and governments are on board with us in terms of defending our pay rates and moving forward in this process, not backwards. And we also will need to, as a part of that, prepare for action, because there is going to be a week of hearings on this at the end of October. Throughout the process, I'm sure that unfortunately some will come out saying things that we do not like, and we'll need to be prepared for community actions, local actions, lobbying, addressing employer concerns, convincing people, and we'll need members to step up and be part of that and making the case in community. We'll also need members to be witnesses as a part of the case, speaking to media, all of those things, and we have to get that ready as well. So you can sign up for those actions too in the survey. So the survey is about sharing your reflections on that aged care structure. It's about signing up to be more involved in the campaign and helping us in the next steps in taking action, including a national week of action in September or October that we're in the process of finalising. Before I move to your questions, I do just want to give a bit of reflection on all of this, because I think that many people, and look, I've had the benefit, I must say, of a week of thinking about this, because the Fair Work decision came out last Friday evening. And I have, and we obviously then sent out this notice to you on Wednesday, and are doing these sessions today and have put all of this together and the plan moving forward. But one of the things I think we do need to remember is that we in the ASU stand on the shoulders of giants. We won our first award in 1985, but we started that campaign in 1976. And actually, it is interestingly 40 years this year since we won our first ever award in the community sector. And at the time, we were told we weren't even an industry. We didn't deserve an award. Your work isn't even real enough to have an award. And our predecessors won that award, but it was a 9-year struggle. And when we won equal pay, that great victory in 2012, that again wasn't a court case that happened overnight. That was sustained member activism over 5 years to get to that result. So I think, yes, this is not the outcome we wanted in terms of process. Yes, we now have to expand to 6 months focused on talking about Fair Work's proposal rather than moving on to what we want to do to improve the award. But I think in the context of history, we know as the mighty ASU that we persevere, we take action, we unite, and we always do win. It just sometimes takes longer than we'd like. And our campaign's 1 year old, and it will continue until we win what we need for a better award, so that your work is better valued and your services are properly funded to provide decent jobs in our sector. So just a reminder, please go on to follow this link and you can start the survey. Share it far and wide. we only have a couple of weeks really to collect as much feedback. We will come to workplaces and run this session if you want to. If you're like, God, I want all my colleagues to know, I want to have a meeting straight away, contact your organizer, contact us, let us know. We'll come and do meetings like this exact briefing to you and your colleagues. We're happy to come to any other meetings that you have. We just have a short amount of time, and that's not our choosing. That is just what the deadline the Commission has set. So that is really important. It is a member-only survey because, when we're determining the position of the union, it is only up to members to determine that. And we really can only represent and seek the feedback of members in that process. So please make sure that this is, I guess, an opportunity. If someone has not joined the union yet at work and saying, why would I join? What's the benefit? Well, be part of defending our pay, be part of shaping our award, be part of making it a better sector for everyone. That is what union is. That is why we need people to be in the union. We'll only achieve great things the more we have people on side and with us today. So that's an opportunity, I guess, also to talk to people about why they need to join if they're not a member yet, and to take part in this really important next step of our campaign. So I'm going to just have a look in the chat for if there are any particular questions. And if you have any, put them in the chat right now. I'll just stop sharing. And I'll look at the Q&A. I haven't seen anything there. So yes, so we're also going to send out the survey to all members on Monday. So by signing up to this briefing today, you're actually the first in the country to be seeing this. We've been scrambling or we're putting this together. This is a national campaign, by the way. So briefings like this will be held all over the country. The survey will be sent on Monday to members nationally. You're the first people to see it. For that reason, it's also really good if you're doing it today, please give us any feedback or if there are any technical issues before we send it out to everyone. So that's really important. A couple of questions. And it's interesting, the two questions we've got are kind of similar. I've got one question about on the Fair Works draft changes, they talk about the difference between levels, their levels 3 and 4 being experience. And someone in the chat has asked me, have they talked about anything about RPL? This is such a good point. So yes, this is something that we think as the union, we need to build in to as feedback to them, which is, yes, qualifications are important, but experience should be considered just as important. So what you could overlay as an option, and this is what we're seeking feedback from members, is experience being equal to a particular qualification or equivalent to. So while you might not have the degree or the Cert 4, if you have a certain amount of industry experience for the purpose of your pay or classification, that counts. That's the same thing. So that is one clear amendment that we are seeking member feedback on, because then it would obviously value qualifications, but it would also value experience. And we know that industry experience is so important and it does make a difference. Members have told me many times there is a difference between a student straight out of TAFE with no experience and someone who has worked in the sector 10 years. And that's because you learn stuff on the job. And that learning stuff on the job is important, that we need to have recognised as well. So thank you for the members who raised that. They are both really, really good ideas. I think I'll just leave it there because we're just at 11:30 and I promised this would be a short, sharp briefing. I hope it's all made sense to you. So just to recap where we're at. The campaign for a better award continues. The ASU's case to improve our pay and classifications is now, though, going to be held next year, and that's a choice of the Fair Work Commission. What they have said they want to focus on first is feedback on their idea. And their idea is that we adopt a structure that looks a lot like the New Aged Care Award, that's based very strongly on qualifications. And they've asked for feedback by September. So today we're launching a national survey of members. And we're also asking you to be prepared to help us, not just in a survey, but by having union meetings, by asking people to join, by helping us persuade employers, politicians, and the Commission itself that it's important that our pay is protected, our award goes forwards, not backwards, and we have a better award that's easy to use and that values our members' work. The campaign continues, the struggle continues. We never say never at the ASU. We're all about persevering. And as our history shows us, we do always win. We will get there. This is a side step. It's not the step we wanted right now, but we have a plan to move forward, and it's going to rely on lots of hope and activism. And I know that that's something ASU members have in abundance. So thank you so much for coming along today. You'll get all of this in an email on Monday with further instructions. Share the survey far and wide, and we'll be in touch with further updates soon. Thanks again, everyone. Hope you have a great Friday and the rest of your weekend. Thanks.